Gambian citizens are on edge as President Yahya Jammeh refuses to step down 2 days before the inauguration of President-elect Adama Barrow. Analysts weigh in on what a Donald Trump White House may portend for Africa. And the World Health Organization says there's a profound shift from communicable to non-communicable diseases in many parts of Africa. We'll explore the reasons. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. The political tension is rising in the Gambia. The inauguration of President-elect Adama Barrow is less than 2 days away, and incumbent President Yahya Jammeh remains steadfast in his refusal to step down. A senior Nigerian military official says Nigeria and other West African countries are preparing a joint force to intervene militarily if Mr. Jammeh does not relinquish power to opposition leader Adama Barrow. Meanwhile, Gambia's ministers of finance, foreign affairs, trade and the environment have all resigned. Their departures follows last week's resignation of the communications minister. Hundreds of Gambian citizens have fled to Senegal since the election to avoid any political unrest. Jammeh, in power since the 1994 coup, has become isolated at home and abroad after he refused to accept his election defeat in December. Now, for more perspective on the political situation in Gambia, Tamsir Jassy joins me live via Skype from Atlanta, Georgia. He's the founder of the Gambia Association for Peace and Reconciliation. Tamsir, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you for having me, Victor.
Now, we're really very close to this day. From your take of things in that part of the region, what are we likely to witness by Thursday morning?
One thing that's certain is that there's going to be an inauguration of Mr. Barrow as President of the Republic of the Gambia, and Mr. Jammeh will be stepping down. Exactly that's how going to play that. Exactly how that is going to play out, I can't tell for sure. But military action from the ECOWAS region, it's a possibility. Or Mr. Jammeh can avoid all that by simply stepping down and handing over. The ball is in his court. Is for him to decide what he wants to do.
Now, we've seen a number of cabinet members resign. I don't know how many there are in total, but is this a good sign that his government, his inner circle, is crumbling?
Obviously not a good sign at all, especially when you're a member of that government. It shows clearly that these people have the interests of the Gambian people at heart, and this is the right time to express that interest by stepping away from Mr. Jammeh, letting him understand that he's alone in this fight, and the Gambian people have decided and they want to move on. And the best he can do is just step aside.
Now, we know last time, in about a week ago or two, he threatened that he will defend his country with his military force. Do you see Gambian military putting up a fight against ECOWAS?
Highly unlikely. The best part of the military, my understanding, is that they will not side with Mr. Jammeh on this matter. As a matter of fact, he will be surprised that when the ECOWAS forces finally set foot on Gambian soil, a good part of the Gambian military will join the ECOWAS forces to flush out whoever else is with Mr. Jammeh, including Mr. Jammeh himself.
Now, from your personal kind of assessment of things, what is the best way out for Mr. Jammeh come Thursday, or even before then?
Pick up the phone right now. Call the chairwoman of ECOWAS, President of Liberia, and just let them know that he's ready to hand over peacefully. That's the best way. Otherwise, there is no way out for him.
Yes. Now, and then we look at Mr. Adama Barrow. He's right now in the neighboring country, Senegal. How do you see him coming back on that day? Do you have any clue as to what is the plan?
I strongly believe that ECOWAS is a responsible organization, responsible enough to make sure that when they bring back Mr. Barrow into the Gambia as president, that the ground is secured. How they're going to go about doing that, I don't know for sure. But I can assure you, ECOWAS will not be that foolish to venture into the Gambia with Mr. Barrow and the ground not secure.
Well, thanks a lot for your perspectives, and we look forward to talking to you again on this program.
Thank you.
Well, Tamsir Jassy is the founder of the Gambian Association for Peace and Reconciliation. Well, there is much speculation as to what U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's policy for Africa will look like as he focuses on domestic problems and promises he made to the electorate during his campaign. Africa 54's Esther Gido-Ewart has researched the issue and has this policy look ahead.
Throughout his presidential campaign, Donald Trump revealed little about his foreign policy priorities, and now many Africans wonder if his administration will engage constructively with the continent. Former U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria, Robin Renee Sanders, has worked for the administrations of both Republicans and Democrats, and say both parties agree on a number of critical issues on Africa.
Even today, we have Electrify Africa, which is a bipartisan legislation. We have AGOA. So I'm hoping that that same kind of spirit of bipartisanship to keep some of these things continues into the next administration.
A bipartisan agreement in 2015 extended the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act until 2025, with the aim of expanding U.S. trade and investment in sub-Saharan Africa. Jeffrey Gordon, a U.S. foreign policy advisor and a national security expert, says he is optimistic about the incoming administration.
Certainly he wants strong ties with Africa. He wants strong economic development between the United States and Africa. So economic development and strong business ties would be something to look forward to for a Trump White House.
In 2009, China overtook the U.S. as Africa's largest trading partner and may benefit if America fails to engage with the continent. Ngozi Bell, an advocate for small business administration, says a Trump presidency should be a source of hope for the continent.
So when we go back to our president-elect Trump, being a good businessman, if you recognize that the world is going after this continent, where 65% of the population is going to be the biggest growth population on the planet, then I assume that he's going to look at it from the perspective of the benefit to this country and how that win-win needs to be created. And I think we have to be hopeful about that.
American University professor Kwaku Nwoama cautions Africans who may be pessimistic not to disengage with the Trump administration, saying no one knew how much the administration of former U.S. President George W. Bush would mean for Africa.
If you compare what Bush did on the continent to speeches that Barack Obama gave, they don't compare. You know, look at PEPFAR, for example, which has saved African lives. Programs that really put money on the continent. So my plea to Africans is that we cannot disengage from working with the Trump administration.
Critics of U.S. policy toward Africa point to America's alleged slow response when the Ebola epidemic hit the continent. However, when U.S. troops arrived in the hardest hit areas of West Africa, they trained 500 health workers per week, eventually bringing the epidemic under control.
They did that because they recognized that the global world affects the United States. It affects its economy, it affects its people. So I think we have to remember that whatever is done for Africa is really done for America.
During his presidential campaign, Trump spoke strongly against terrorism, and many hope he will see Africa's security as a vital concern for America and the world. Esther Gido-Ewart, VOA News, Washington.
With some of the favorite programs to aid other countries from the administration of President Barack Obama could be on the chopping block after this week's inauguration. The programs include climate change mitigation and contraception. What appears more certain is all overseas assistance will come under scrutiny from a president and a secretary of state with reputations in business for focusing on the bottom line. VOA's Steve Humman reports.
During his confirmation hearing, senators quizzed Secretary of State nominee Rex Tillerson about how to prevent assistance from the United States, the biggest global donor, from being siphoned or stolen by corrupt regimes.
If we're going to deliver aid into a country where we know this is a risk, what can we do in the execution of the delivery of that aid?
For President-elect Donald Trump and his administration, the priority is likely to be on giving foreign aid to countries to enhance property rights, the rule of law, and to fight corruption.
Too much of the foreign aid given by the Western countries, U.S., OECD countries, has ended up only securing in power corrupt regimes.
Certain types of programs that are the ire of religious conservatives are also nearly certain to face review, with the White House and both houses of Congress now under Republican control.
Certainly there are worries, especially in areas of family planning and reproductive health, especially in the areas of HIV/AIDS, prevention and treatment.
But for the outgoing Secretary of State, the United States needs to do even more than its current spending of $34 billion for this fiscal year. John Kerry wants a new Marshall Plan, especially to ensure education for those at risk of being brainwashed by Muslim fundamentalists.
There are about 1.5 billion children in the world under the age of 15. Somewhere upwards of 400 million of them will not go to school. And that is a problem for all of us.
Throughout various administrations, diplomacy, development, and foreign aid have enjoyed strong bipartisan support. And U.S. diplomats are somewhat optimistic. The new administration will also continue to see such assistance overseas as valuable for America's security and economic interests. Steve Herman, VOA News, at the State Department.
Well, in Eastern Europe, Turkish officials have confirmed the arrest on Monday of the suspected gunman who killed 39 people during a New Year's attack on a nightclub in Istanbul. Turkish media had earlier identified Abdulkadir Mashripov as the shooter, saying he was arrested in Istanbul's Esyurt district. Governor Visip Sahin said Tuesday that Masharipov's fingerprints matched those of the shooter and that he was an Uzbekistan national who trained in Afghanistan. He is believed to have entered Turkey in January 2016. Sahin also says it is clear the attack was done in the name of the Islamic State group. The terrorists have claimed responsibility linking the attack to Turkey's military operations against them in Syria. More than 40 other foreign nationals have been detained in connection during the manhunt for Masharipov. Now, the human rights group Amnesty International claims a deluge of anti-terror laws in Europe is undermining fundamental freedoms. But European states say the security measures are vital to counter the terror threat following a series of deadly attacks in France and elsewhere. Henry Ridgewell reports from London.
Amnesty International claims new anti-terror laws are driving Europe into a dangerous state of having permanent and restrictive security measures.
From a position in which we understood that states would guarantee security in order that people could enjoy their rights, to a world in which states are restricting rights on the ostensible argument that that's what's needed to guarantee security.
Europe is reeling after a series of terror attacks in the past 2 years. The November 2015 mass shootings and bombings in Paris prompted France to declare a state of emergency. It enables the state to close down demonstrations, impose curfews, put suspects under house arrest and conduct searches without a warrant. Prime Minister Bernard Cazeneuve announced 2 months ago the state of emergency would be extended for a 5th time, saying it is absolutely necessary to ensure the highest level of protection for French citizens.
Each of us should bear in mind the reality of the context that we are living in, a particularly high level of terrorist threat.
But Amnesty highlights what it claims are abuses of those powers, including the house arrest of more than 20 activists before the Paris climate talks in November 2015, just days after the Islamic State attacks in the same city.
France is it's founded on a culture and a history of people taking to the streets and protesting in order to have change. And it seems particularly ironic that in the state of emergency, some of those underlying principles are thrown out the window.
Amnesty also criticises Hungary for having adopted what it calls some of the most draconian national security laws in Europe. In September 2015, a group of migrants broke through a border gate after throwing rocks at police. One of them, Ahmed Hamed, a Syrian national with Cypriot residency, who had come to help his elderly parents on the journey, was arrested and sentenced to 10 years in jail on a charge of terrorism.
Now that defies any common sense understanding of an act of terrorism.
Speaking before the sentencing in November, Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban said the government is simply enforcing existing laws.
Hungary will do everything to prevent anyone from entering and staying in the country illegally, violating Hungarian laws.
Amnesty's report comes as the European Union is poised to adopt a new directive to standardise counter-terrorism laws, which the bloc claims is vital to tackle the threat the continent faces. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
Well, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we covered. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa54. And check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince Makori. Coming up, a profound shift from communicable to non-communicable diseases across Africa. Stay with us.
This is BizBeat.
The printing business is a $900 billion worldwide industry, and it takes a lot of ink to print those papers. Enter the inkless laser printer, a black and white printing technology developed by researchers at Delft University in the Netherlands. Using no ink, printing is done by burning paper with a uniform infrared laser beam intensity to a specific area. Innovator Venkatesh Chandrasekhar.
The color of the print, which we get with inkless printing, is the exact same blackness as a normal printer.
Chandrasekhar's team wants to bring the product to market as soon as possible, with a focus first to the industrial sectors. Arnaud Vanderveen is the commercial director of Tucano, the company in charge of commercial use technology.
Our solution has certain advantages. No cartridges need to be produced anymore, so that's a cost reduction for the complete chain.
And the technology can be scaled down to fit the everyday home and office environment. From VOA's BizBeat, I'm Philip Alexio.
All right, it's time for a health report. And joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Madu with a look at nutrition and urbanization in Africa. Hello, Lino.
Hello, Vincent. Well, the World Health Organization says a profound shift from communicable to non-communicable diseases is underway in many parts of Africa. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, adopted at the United Nations Summit on Sustainable Development in September 2015, recognizes non-communicable diseases as a major challenge for sustainable development. Health experts say reasons for the increase of non-communicable diseases include the trend towards an unhealthy diet that's rich in saturated fat and salt, poor in fruit and vegetables, as well as rapid urbanization. The SDG's Sustainable Development Goals also address nutrition as an important aspect of development. The second of the 17 proposed SDGs is ending hunger, achieving food security, and improving nutrition, and promoting sustainable agriculture. Now joining us for more on the issue is Tambra Ray Stevenson, founder and CEO of WANDA, Women Advancing Nutrition, Dietetics, and Agriculture. Tambra, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So how do we comprehend the fact that urbanization is impacting nutrition, so having an effect on the increase of non-communicable diseases in Africa?
I mean, part of it is in the name of job creation. The Trojan horse is introducing more fast food businesses to create more youth employment opportunities. The same issue that we've seen in African American communities where we have different fast food shops pop up. But what needs to happen more is early detection, prevention, and intervention, and that means seeing the health and beauty of our African foods. Part of the Global Nutrition Report showed that for every dollar invested in nutrition, you get $16 in return. We build healthy communities, productive employees, and a healthy society overall in order to grow a strong, healthy, and wealthy Africa.
So it's definitely the impact on nutrition that is creating a problem. Now, one of the things that we hear, at least I heard sometime, and we know, is that a lot of African food is cooked for a long time.
Sure.
And some people say that in this process, some food lose their nutritional value. What do you make of this? Is this true?
it's again, there's so many similarities between what is happening on the continent and with the African American community. When we cook greens here in America, we always emphasize drinking the pot liquor, which is the juice that comes with the greens, because the nutrients are leaked from the greens into the juice. And so that's why the traditional soups, the agusi, the kuka, all these in different parts of the continent is so important, because by drinking the soup, you're drinking the nutrients in the actual dish itself. And so it's what has been awesome is to show that in 2015 a report came out showing that the African diet is one of the healthiest diets in the world. And for us to shift in urban environments away from that, adopting more of a westernized diet that is saturated in not only fats but sugar, salts, and processed flours is a detriment to a strong food for a healthy people. And so that's why the foods that we have, everything from the black-eyed peas to the tiger nuts in Nigeria to the teff to the barley, these are gluten-free naturally. Also, they're colorful, they're vibrant. The base of having, you know, the garlics along with the hot peppers and the onions and the gingers, all of that is a great recipe for fighting off the diseases that impact us.
Indeed, and you brought some of these ingredients that you're listing. Here we have coconut, we also have mango and bananas, and this is cassava, ginger. So all these nuts, what is the difference? I mean, there are so many grains and nuts in Africa and around the world, but give us a sense of what you brought and what it's good for.
Well, number one, having a diverse diet is critically important. Eating just a diet of just rice in a day with no color is not going to provide your body with the proper nutrients. So the more colorful your plate, the more nutrients that you will have in terms of vitamins and minerals. And so a typical snack in Ethiopia will be this roasted barley mixed with what we call ground nuts in Nigeria, but with peanuts. And so when you combine a grain and a bean, you make for a complete protein. So the black-eyed peas or any other kind of legume or pea or bean, they also is critically important to have proper protein. Even the moringa that we see growing in different parts of East and West Africa, you find being a key staple in a lot of dishes, such as in northern Nigeria, which I visited. The thing that I find that of all these dishes that is so important is what I call the 5 Ps of cooking. That is, it's not only just the process, the preparation, and the product, but it's the passion and the purpose. You can either choose to create a meal that heals you or kill you. And so the love that you pour into that dish when we envision our mama preparing a dish is so vitally important, just as much as how we prepare it as well.
Love is a good ingredient.
Most definitely.
Indeed. Let's talk quickly about your organization, WANDA, which aims to develop the next generation of women and girls in agriculture?
Agriculture and nutrition.
Okay.
What we find is that there is a high supply of women and girls, but they're untapped potential on the continent and even in the diaspora. And we see that they need to be able to lead this food movement that is currently happening. We say Africa is the breadbasket, but who is part of cultivating and championing that and being the beneficiaries of that? And so being able to create nutrition education materials, as well as women and girls leading and educating their community for a healthy and wealthy Africa is critically important. They're already there. They're already on the farms. They're already in the markets. And as we look to have more big companies and urbanization, they're going to be displacing these local food economies. And that's why they're so important to invest in.
You also teach children about nutrition with these cue cards quickly.
We have a new Where's Wanda book series, which is about empowering young readers to be healthy eaters, leaders, and readers. And so it's about little Wanda traveling through Africa with her magic apron, learning the health and beauty of African foods and sharing that inspiration for other children to be global trotters like her as well.
That's fantastic. Tambra, thank you so much for joining us today, and we appreciate all your knowledge on this topic. And that's Tambra Ray Stevenson. She is founder and CEO of WANDA, Women Advancing Nutrition, Dietetics, and Agriculture. And that's our health report for today. To stay in touch, find me on Twitter @LinorMoudou. Back to you, Vincent, and stay good in health and nutrition, Vinny.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for not suggesting that I juice all my African foods. I like to chew them. So be sure to watch Linor Moudou's health reports. They come on Tuesdays and Thursdays right here on Africa 54. It's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, a Kenyan artist who first made a name for himself painting portraits of President Obama and is now making Donald Trump his focus. We'll be right back.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headlines. In the Gambia, the coalition warns that any Gambian security force member who does not switch allegiance to President-elect Adama Barrow when Yahya Jammeh's term expires this week will be considered as a rebel. In Nigeria, at least 3 people are killed and 15 others injured in a suicide bomb attack at a university campus in the northeastern part of the country. In Ivory Coast, former Prime Minister is sworn in on Monday as the West African nation's first vice president. Finally, in Kenya, the Election Commission begins a drive to register millions of new voters ahead of the August elections. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. It's a fabric associated with traditional luxury and opulence. Now, velvet is making a comeback as one of this season's hottest trends. From evening dresses and smoking jackets to sofas and even dog beds, fashion insiders say velvet's popularity is soaring. Velvet is thought to have originated in China by around 13th century. The fabric became popular in the Renaissance as a way of showing off its wearers' wealth and status. One next up, a Kenyan artist, Evans Yonga, has a keen interest in U.S. politics. A change in president means a change in direction for the artist who likes to go by the name Yegonizer. He made a name for himself painting $1,000 portraits of President Barack Obama and is now making Trump his focus. Yegon says that while Trump is an interesting subject with his facial expressions and persona, it has been a struggle to find buyers for his paintings of the president-elect. Now, Yegon has sold just one Trump painting to an American client of all the 10 that he has painted so far. Yegon says he sold 28 of the 30 Obama paintings he made during the outgoing president's second term. Well, and finally, it's a boy. Berlin's Tierpark Zoo has confirmed the sex of the latest addition to the polar bear family. The frisky cub is in good spirits, even though he doesn't seem to be happy getting manhandled by his carers. A Berlin radio station and 2 newspapers are asking the public for naming suggestions. The contest is open until February 1st. In the meantime, visitors can watch the cub in the outdoor polar bear enclosure. And that is what is trending today. And that's our show for today. Now be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, African News Tonight at 1800 UTC. And in the mornings today, Break Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching. From all of us here, have a good night.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Sailing on a ship can be a fun way to travel. But are Jonathan and Anna talking about travel here?
That ship has sailed.
Hey, Jonathan, my friend Stella has changed her mind. She would love to go out with your friend Rocky.
That was months ago. That ship has sailed.
What do you mean? There's always a chance for love.
Not this time. Rocky got married last week.
Oh, you're right. That ship has sailed.
When a ship sails, it sets off on its trip. The expression, that ship has sailed, means your chance to do something has passed. Now, if you don't like boating or get seasick, you can also say, that train has left the station. They both mean the same thing. You are too late. And that's English in a Minute.